It may seem antithetical to good game design, but a lot of games can benefit from a little bit of chaos. Baby Park in Mario Kart Double Dash is an absolute train wreck of a course, where all players can be expected to be pelted by no less than 8 red shells every race. But that same randomness can make it a blast to play. Randomized guns define the Borderlands series, and create incentives for highly leveled players to replay the game, even with the inexperienced. And of course, Mario Party just wouldn't be the same without the Bowser space to spread a little bit of misery around. But there's a common thread with each of these examples: spiky turtle shells. Also that the chaos can be shared with other people. And indeed, half of the WarioWare series does try to, and captures, that party atmosphere that can be so engaging. But for the other half, the series is presented with an interesting design problem. How can the game simultaneously accommodate newcomers and maintain that feeling of chaos after players know what's coming? The series is notorious for its lack of longevity and depth, because once you've memorized most of the microgames, the challenge of suddenly adapting becomes a lot more trivial. Because the series has such limited possible inputs, especially in WarioWare Twisted, it's hard for the game to throw you a curveball. Sure, it does gradually increase in speed, and there are usually 3 variations on a given game, but this will inevitably devolve into a pure execution challenge rather than one of sudden adaptation. You would think that WarioWare Gold would fall into this trap even more, since as a best-of collection, it brings in most microgames from other titles. But instead, because of a few smart decisions on the part of the developers, it's become my new favorite. WarioWare Gold splits the controls of the main game into 3 leagues. The Mash League, based on the button controls of the first WarioWare, the Twist League, based on the gyro controls of WarioWare Twisted, and the Touch League, based on the touchscreen controls of WarioWare Touched. Already, this provides more variety than most WarioWare games will give you, and the freedom to switch in between leagues stops the game from growing stale. And because all of the controls are introduced independently, new players won't be overwhelmed. When you finish all 3 leagues, the Ultra League is introduced, where the game really shines in my opinion. Here the microgames continually shift between the 3 control schemes, shouting "Mash! Touch! Twist!" before each new microgame starts. There are also ultra-fast microgames where you have to blow into the microphone, and even a microgame where you have to do nothing that all continually throw you off balance. That constant shifting of controls stays difficult far longer than any traditional WarioWare game, which keeps the act of pursuing the high score more interesting than just a cute novelty. This is complemented by the addition of gold and achievements to encourage players to come back. Even better, in the final round of the Ultra League, Wario decides that telling you what controls to use is too much effort, and you're left to just scramble and figure out how to hold your 3DS with each new microgame. It's great stuff. But while the Ultra League might nab you the credit sequence, it's not really the end of the game. Soon you'll unlock a sizable collection of bonus modes, providing things to fiddle with, fun minigames, or my favorite, new takes on the WarioWare formula. Wario Interrupts is an interesting, harder take on the final round of the Ultra League, where Wario adds distractions on the screen between games that lasts while the games are still active. Clearing out these distractions adds a new level of challenge. Gamer returns from Game & Wario, and while I don't think it's quite as good as it is on the Wii U, because it's easier to keep the top screen in your peripheral vision rather than shifting between 2 entirely different vantage points, it's still a fun time, and as good a translation to a portable system as could be allowed. Wario Watch returns from Twisted, and this is another good one. Here there's an overall time limit, and clearing games raises the amount of time you have remaining, which rewards a player for finishing games quickly. But out of all of these, the new split screen mode has to be my favorite. It's a simple idea. In this mode, as soon as one microgame finishes on the top screen, another microgame starts on the bottom screen, and vice versa. But needing to continually shift your focus layers on the tension. The mode also eliminates the usual few second breaks in between each game, just running one game right into another. Each time a microgame shifts, one of the two ninja sisters will shout her name for the top screen and for the bottom, which guides the player just enough that they can keep up with the game. This is a perfect utilization of the twin ninjas from a character perspective. While 9Volt's Nintendo cameos were always fun to see, and Orbulon's slower logic games had a unique feel, Cat and Anna have always felt a bit superfluous this series after Ashley took their cute little girl spot, and young Cricket aped some of their Far East feeling. But there's no characters in gaming who could fit the role of hosting split screen better, finally giving them their place, and giving great characterization through their pure energy. The mode does offer the option of playing with just button controls, but I usually play on Ultra mode, where all of the game's concepts come together. You'll be pushing buttons, you'll be twisting the 3DS like an idiot, you'll be fiddling for your stylus, also like an idiot. You'll gasp for air suddenly to blow into your system. You'll feel like a moron for failing to win by doing absolutely nothing. All of this while games continually switch screens. All of this with no microgame transitions. All of this without a second to catch your breath. But it never feels unfair, since the game trains you for this moment through the rest of its challenges, or possibly even the rest of the series. And perhaps most interestingly, it plays with and perfects the advent of two screens in a way that's been lost to time. Classic Game & Watch titles like Oil Panic and Greenhouse use two screens expertly, making the gameplay between each screen feel related, yet separate enough that shifting your focus becomes its own challenge. But in the DS era, a lot of games had such wildly different concepts that you feel like you're playing two unrelated games at once. Or worse, one screen is regulated to something totally unnecessary, or just acts as a storage for a mini-map, or tries to combine the two into one big screen with a stupid gap in the middle to a hilariously terrible effect, Yoshi's Island DS. Split screen presents one of the most natural solutions I've seen in a long time. The ironic thing is, despite the mode being one of the most challenging in the entire series, its speed doesn't need to ramp up nearly as quickly as in some other modes. The effect is strangely elegant, feeling like a steady growth as you adapt to each new wacky microgame. This is epitomized by the music, which not only invokes the feelings of a ninja training montage, but is never interrupted by moving into a new game, making hearing more of the song its own reward. Additionally, the microgames all last the exact same amount of time, which allows the developers to pace the music perfectly on beat with the screen transitions. The soundtrack is a guiding force, letting the player get into the groove and not be overwhelmed by everything they have to do, translating a massive variety of games into the rhythm genre. I'm a firm believer that most games should do everything in their power to make overcoming a challenge easier, outside of actually lessening the challenge. And the music here is an incredible motivational tool. That, and I am super biased toward traditional Japanese instruments in general. Shimasens are the best. Gimmicks come and go in the video game industry. Ever since the release of the DS, players had justifiable concern that Nintendo's new wacky ideas might not lead anywhere, even if they do everything in their power to make those gimmicks seem worthwhile. For most of WarioWare's history, this concern seems to have been undeniable proof, as each new game seemed to discard the control scheme the last game was built on to take advantage of a system's new features or ideas. But WarioWare Gold takes these random, disparate pieces, jumbles them together, and makes something new, beautiful, and just as approachable out of it. I think the most striking thing about Split Screen Ultra is just how well it works in spite of it pulling ideas from across not only the WarioWare series, but Nintendo's 40-year history of handhelds, and in spite of it changing its gameplay dramatically every 5 seconds. It's a mess, and nothing about it should actually work, but it teaches you how to be comfortable in that mess and find a way to function. It is the epitome of elegance. Not something you'd expect from something that designs for chaos.